It's been just a very busy week for all of us. How about you?
The same. It never stops. It's
It's,
amazing.
it's like this New Year is coming and we're just rushing, running, and with new vigor, new appetite, new energy. And that's what this year
Focus.
is really all about.
Yes, and much to do.
Yeah. I'm really excited about some of the things we have upcoming for this weekend. We have those two youth programs. And, Jackie, very interestingly, I'm now getting requests saying we should do sessions for men and for women. And that's something we'll consider. But let's get these young people started first.
Right. Well, that
And
came up last week as well.
right. I
Let's
guess
follow up on that.
we should start out by saying who we are, first of all. I'm Dr. Willie Mouse, the president of Dr. Willie Mouse Children's Foundation, located in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think all of you all know that are not new to us that children are our priority.
Yes, and I'm Jacqueline Hampton Clemens, educational consultant, and I'm located in South Florida.
Well, Jackie, again, I was saying that we're very excited about what is happening this weekend. A lot of energy. The first announcements were out today. And just for your information, we only have 100 slots available.
Oh, my.
We only have 100. And so Savannah has already called me and told me they have sent out to about 15 different youth organizations. We're trying to get the Urban League of Atlanta involved, the Boys and Girls Club, and as many people as we can. But we'll see what happens this weekend. You and I always know that we'll talk to any number that shows up. It's not about numbers to us. It's about getting information out to those who are present.
Right. And the children are actually their own best message, because once they're engaged, they'll certainly be inviting their friends.
Well, the thing about it is that the program is going to be very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. I got some youth energy. We have a DJ who wants to come and host with us. We're going to have music starting out, music of the kids' choice. Well, as long as it's not cursing and all that profanity and stuff, we'll do some, and they can dance for the first 3 or 4 minutes or wherever they're going to do on Zoom.
Whatever they need to do to relax.
And what's very interesting, we have some giveaways for them. We may have some gift certificates for them. Not gift certificates. I mean, gift cards.
Gift cards. Yes.
You can tell what school I'm from, right?
You can tell what generation we are. That's for sure. That's
gift
okay.
certificates. But anyway, gift cards. Gift cards for them from Walmart. So we're really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to you being engaged as much as you can. And we have some volunteers. We have several young men out of North Carolina who work with youth programs who are interested in working with us. Of course, Faithful Father is going to be working with us and doing a lot of live streams with us with these young folk. And we have Dr. Denise Munoz, who's going to be with us, Dr. Bell, dealing with the mental health piece. They've all volunteered, and I'm just really excited about this coming weekend and really each weekend thereafter.
Right.
So
really can't go wrong with this focus and giving young people a platform. And I think it's fantastic that you're bringing in so many resources.
Yeah. But what's so amazing about this? I guess I want to say also that the platform we're going to be using is going to be Zoom. We sent out the announcements today. We sent them out throughout the state of Georgia today. And to 10,000 people, including schools. Again, to us, I just want to make sure that we are getting the information out. We can't make people drink this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And I want to make sure that you and I are never worried about the numbers that show up on these screens. It's important that they do. But what I'm seeing, Jack, I'm seeing that people are going to our website and watching these things at their convenience. And we're getting hundreds of viewers. So I'm just really excited about that, really excited. Well, Jackie, before we begin tonight's session, how do you feel about this girlfriends thing this weekend?
Dr. Miles, this has been a long passion and focus. And even looking over some of our information tonight, you realize that there really is no such thing as too much talk when it comes to our youth. And I think sometimes people think that there's so much out there and there's so many programs, but these young people really don't have access and they don't have people to talk to. So I'm just excited that the platform is created. I like the name. There's so much conversation to be had with our young girls about, caring for themselves and about how to support each other and be friends. So I like the name Girlfriends. And it provides a lot of opportunity.
Well, Jackie, I want to share with you where that came from. That came from Mary Wilson, who is deceased. And in Fort Lauderdale, she was very well known for running operating girls programs with Friends of Children there. Yes. And so we named the institute after her. It's called the Mary Wilson Female Development Center. So this Girlfriends initiative is in her honor. And I'm looking forward to that. As far as the Male Development Center, of course, I'm always very excited, but I want to pass it on to somebody now. I want to pass it on to some young people who have the energy and folk who really, who think the way we think as far as our values. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to get these young people to change and be something we want them to be. We want to give them some things they may be missing from home.
Right.
All right?
And I think those the people that you're looking to pass the torch to are going to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very excited about it all. You know, tonight our discussion is about teen sex, how does it affect youth? And Jackie, I'm not sure how you felt about this, but, you know, when we start doing our research for these programs, are you always amazed at how much we don't know?
Listen, not only that, but I'm amazed at how certain things continue generation to generation. As I read over this, I had a conversation with my almost 23-year-old daughter, and I said, I just can't believe some of these things are still happening. You know, but again, to our point, to the purpose for this weekend, there are a lot of youth out there, and we need multiple platforms, and they're not getting the information.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's just, I am shocked, to answer your question. I'm always surprised.
You know what's interesting? They're not getting the information because it appears that some of the parents don't want the information. You know, I'm amazed. You know, to me, our followers should be running off the chart in millions based on what we're talking about.
There should be parents like flocking and flooding this Instagram live, because this is information that so many parents need. You know, I think maybe we need to start sending this out directly to school counselors, so they can also refer people. Yeah,
for the schools that are in. But, you know, the thing about it, though, is kind of interesting, is that, you know, we get this information and, you know, we're considered subject matter experts in this field. And I'm always in awe. And I'm in awe, but I get kind of sad when you talk about the information young people don't have and the information that parents don't have.
Right.
And then parents call us saying, what do we do? My hands are all, you know, I don't know what to do. But I'm saying you're not even attempting to get the resources.
You know, we talk about this every week.
Right.
They're not being deliberate.
Yeah.
They're not being intentional. We too often think that parenting is kind of like, you know, it just happens automatically. And in today's environment, when your children have so many other means of getting the wrong information, it doesn't happen accidentally. So it's either intentional or it's not happening at all. And
our stupidity and lack.
That's at the top of the list, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about it is that, you know, this is not I'm using, of course, inappropriate English, but this is not a, it's for them conversation. You know, it's for them conversation. Right. You know, it is for parents who have children and who think that their children are still such babies at age 12, and their children are engaged in adult behaviors.
Right. You know, this, and it certainly does cross the socioeconomic lines
that
are often in place. And sometimes it's those who don't have the economic issues who spend less time, you know, with the economic concerns.
Right.
And they think it's just automatic. Well, not my child. They have everything they need. I mean, there's so much inaccurate and misinformation out there. End of the day, as a parent, if you are not having a conversation, I don't care what your zip code is, what your bank account says,
doesn't matter,
high or low, good or bad. If you're not having the conversation, you are creating a child that is at risk of dealing with situations that they don't have to deal with if you would just give them the proper information.
Well, Jackie, I also want people to know that, you know, we do these kinds of programs as a public service.
Exactly.
You know, that we're not getting salaries for doing this. You know, we're not on somebody's payroll.
Right.
And it's part of our job. This is a public service to the community. And you and I both agree that this is our way of giving back to those who may not have had, and for those who have not had the access. You know.
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons I did agree to join, because this is, you know, this is, you call it community service. This is just, as you said, it's give back. It's responsibility. It's obligation. Those who know need to share. You know, those who can do. And you created this platform, and it's an amazing platform. I have no doubt that, you know, it will grow. But to your point, that's really not our goal. Our goal is to make sure that we are delivering a message and trying to help better the lives of children. Again, so many of these things and so many of what they go through just doesn't have to happen.
Right.
If we can communicate more.
Jackie, one thing I want to do, I actually want to brand the word you use quite often. I really do like it. And that word is deliberate. That word, so what we do is deliberate. This is not a haphazard thought that we're having. And every session we have, a lot of planning goes into it and resources. So what we do is deliberate. But I think what I want to do now, I want to jump into this because we have a lot to cover,
We won't get to it all.
And, you know, Jackie, when we talk about this teen sex, how does it affect youth? You know, let's talk about, well, you know, how youth perceive it. Youth perceive this sex thing as something I'm supposed to do because I'm young, you know, and that all young people do it, and that it's hip and it's cool, and that it's okay, and that it's normal.
And what's behind all that is that it must be safe because so many people are doing it.
Yes.
You know, as I read over the data, what was obvious is that they're not hearing about the consequences.
Yes.
They hear about the engagement. They hear about the quote unquote hookups and things of that nature. But also we have to consider their brains just aren't developed at a point where they can process tomorrow and down the road.
But it was amazing, Jackie, not only their brains, but as we did the research on this, their bodies are not ready for it. You know, it's kind of amazing that when we started doing the research on the topic, we started finding out that, you know, I got kind of like depressed a little. I said, wait a minute, all these negative things.
Yeah, I actually went and I sent to you, I had to go find some other information, some solution based, because the data was, you know, it was sad. It's depressing that we're in the same place.
Yeah, it's negative. And you'll find yourself, there's nothing positive about it. Now, I think what you're talking about it's great, is some solutions, what people can do. But again, our thought is that if people know better, they do better. Yeah. But Jackie, it's kind of amazing. Some of the parents, they reference their childhood and say, okay, guess what? I was having sex at age 10, so ain't nothing too wrong with that. Look at me. Look how it turned out. And I'm saying, I am looking. I am looking.
I know that's all part of the issue. And I think that's why we're getting calls to have sessions for adults. And I do agree, Dr. Miles, we should consider it. Because if they're not educated, they can't educate their children.
Okay, let's consider no more convincing me. Let's consider it done. We'll develop the curriculum for it, and we'll try to do something with them in a week or so. All right. Okay. Let's jump into the topic. Why do young teens have sex? You know, and we can ad-lib it, but we also talk about what the research says. Why do young teens have sex? That'd be a good question for them, wouldn't it?
It really would. And you know, what's important to note is that there are different reasons for girls and for guys.
Yes.
You know, we know this in theory, but I also want to just share with parents, again, we talk about those who are in denial. You know, our research that says 3 in 10 teens, 30% of females and 29% of males are having regular sexual intercourse on a regular basis. Like during the survey, 30% answered that they'd had sexual intercourse in the last 30 days. So we want parents to know that this is not some occasional, you know, this is a regular ongoing part of, you know, their behavior and their life.
I want to throw this in also. It's not just they're also having sex, but being before they're having intercourse, before then they're having oral sex, oral and anal.
Oral and anal, and so, probably not considering that sex. Certainly not considering that. I mean, if you're trying to avoid sexually transmitted diseases, it's not working. You're still going to, you know, you still run the risk of contracting a sexually transmitted disease. But again, to your question about the reasons, it's actually, you know, research says that for young men, they believe it's going to increase their social standing.
Yeah.
I mean, to kids, having sex is like having the right clothes, you know, wearing the right sneakers. Yeah, because that's also designed to increase their social standing. And then, of course, for young girls, it's the opposite. You know, they know that it may affect them, but they also feel the pressure because, as you mentioned, so many people are doing it. It's normal.
Well, but those are also the symptoms of a larger problem. And the larger problem is that our children are having early sex and seeking intimacy, social status, and as well as pleasure. And so, Jackie, we began to look at and ask the question, when a child seeks intimacy, what does that really mean? It means
that they're not otherwise connected to a relationship where they feel recognized. So, and a lot of our research supports that they don't have relationships with their parents.
Exactly.
Or other adults or other caring people. So just consider, again, you're engaging in a sexual activity, which is, something most adults can't really handle. But you're doing that as a normal part of being in a relationship, or wanting a relationship, wanting to feel close and seen and important.
Yeah.
That clearly says it's missing in the home.
Right. Yeah, one thing I want to do, Jackie, because in our sessions this weekend, I used the word that our sessions are unfiltered. And I think we have to do that to get across to people. But I think also I want our sessions to be unfiltered, because we have to tell parents the truth with the use of language. I'm not talking about profanity, but use of language they understand, and to get our message across. But we're talking about children who seek intimacy. And what does that really mean? And you said it beautifully. They've not had this relationship, the kind they need, with their parents. And they have not been elevated to feel that there's somebody, that self-esteem thing. So when children, well, let me finish the other one, as well as pleasure. And pleasure is not necessarily sex. Pleasure could be recreation. Pleasure could be various types of foods, because pleasure deals with our senses, our sensory. So the question is, or the comment is, when children have sex, they're looking for ways to please these things. And sex becomes the option.
One of the options. And let's also mention that these things are starting 9, 10 years old, pre-pubescent, and let alone, when they're in puberty. It's really mentioned that a lot of times, if you're not having this conversation until your child is 12 years old,
too late. It's late.
A lot of them have already engaged in some form. Our research showed that nearly half of 15 to 19-year-olds say they've had oral sex.
What was the age? What was the age again?
15 to 19-year-olds. A self-report. Now, this is the children reporting on themselves.
So, Jackie, I want to ask you this. So these kids come home from school and mom says, "Oh, look at my little baby. Oh, look at me. They're just growing up." And he or she is saying, "You just don't know."
Clueless.
And so why treating them like they're this immature thing? And my treatment with my clients, one of our clients says, "My parents treat me like a baby, and I'm sick of that." Now, they talk about my little boo-boo, and this child is 14 years old, and talking about, oh, he's baby and all this stuff. This boy has already been having sex for a year and a half.
Right. A baby in your dreams. Which really, Dr. Miles, the topic of this could be parental denial.
Yeah.
Right. And that same parent is putting a cell phone in that boo-boo's hand, right? Boo-boo don't need a cell phone. Okay? That cell phone is providing access, not just to people, but to information, to videos, to all sorts of things. And guys, let's keep it real. Children are naturally curious. Okay? So you've now given them a vehicle to research what is just natural, 9, 10, and then connect with others who are going to share it. But at the same time, you want to treat them like a child. So how do we get the message across, Dr. Miles, that these conversations need to start early?
What's so interesting to me, though, and I got your message. Trust me, I got it. But we don't want to deny our children access to technology, because that's the way for the future. But guess what? There is a responsibility and values that come with that before you give them those things. Are you with me? There's some teaching and some training that comes before you give them all this access. Because that's just like giving a diabetic access to a candy store.
Right. And the other thing that they're also missing, our research says that children who have accurate information about sex, like real information, real words, real answers, are less likely to engage.
That's amazing.
I'm thinking, okay, but they're telling you that you need to be having these conversations For instance, using proper terms with infants. Like I think we mentioned this last week. Call a penis a penis. Call a vagina a vagina.
What it is.
Call it what it is so that they understand. Have real conversations about how an egg, a sperm fertilizes an egg, and that's how babies are made.
But tell them where that sperm comes from. Tell them
where the sperm comes from. Penises produce sperm, and vaginas ovulate. Well, the vagina doesn't ovulate, but there's a process, and that's how babies. But these are conversations, if parents think about it. For parents who are uncomfortable, it is much easier to have this conversation with a child who does not have the sexual connotations that you're afraid of. So when you're having this with a younger child, and 5-year-olds start asking where babies come from, because very often the parents are, a mom could be pregnant, like, well, how did that happen?
Don't come from a stork.
They don't come from the stork. And one of the research articles that I read said, and please don't say it's in the stomach, say it's in the uterus, because the stomach is full of acid and no baby can survive there. But their point is, use the science, keep it real. A lot of times children are searching, they're curious, they're getting all sort of wrong information. They're going to go looking, parents. Hello to all my parents out there. They are going to go looking and questioning, and they're probably doing it by 5 or 6, and you're waiting until they're 18. You're kind of late to the party.
Yeah. This kind of prompted me to even think about the format for these parent conversations, and it should be like you said before, training on how to talk to your child about sex, male children, how to talk to your children about babies, how to talk to your children about dating. It's actually those kind of trainings that they need, because evidently they think they know it based upon their own experiences, And if we think about our experiences now, I don't know about your mama, but ain't nobody sit down and talk to me about nothing. I had to have some trusted friends and some adults and preachers and everybody else who gave me the information.
Yeah. We had conversations in our home. We did. My father probably may have been a little bit too open, if there's such a thing, but he was not shy. My mom, we also had conversations. They weren't in-depth conversations,
right?
But it wasn't at zero, and I think that helped. Again, it's really, a lot of it is curiosity,
right?
But we also have a society, Dr. Miles, that tells us, people become sexually active at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, because that's what we want to believe. So once society accepts that children are sexually active at earlier ages, especially without the information, maybe more parents will wake up and deal with the information.
So Jackie, you mentioned that there are some differences between I guess with sexuality too, of boys and girls and their various needs, their needs. Now, I'm not sure I shared this with you before, but I actually interviewed about 25 boys when I did some research in Fort Lauderdale, and the question was, why do you have sex? Why do you engage? And what they shared with me, I would say about 85% is that they had sex when they had a need to be loved. And so anytime they had this need for affect, are you with me?
They went to sex.
And I'm saying, but that ain't how it works.
And sex doesn't do that. But they find that out later.
Right. And then the girls succumb to them by saying, I will do this because I want to make him happy. Are you with me?
Because they're looking for love and affection that they're not getting at home. And Dr. Miles, I have to say this because it's not said often enough. And this is something this is a study I think I started just by observation in high school. Young women who have relationships, healthy relationships with the appropriate males in their lives, fathers, brothers,
that's true.
Uncles, when they have relationships with men, they do not have the need to go looking for that elsewhere.
That's very true.
Again, I'm sure that research is there, but it is just it's so important that Jackie, young women have relationships with men that they trust.
Jackie, I need you to repeat that again, because and it's preferably positive fathers.
But that's the key.
But if they're not there, say what you just said again about the relationship that the children should have with the male.
I would like people to do their own observation. Like I said, I did just an observation long before I entered any such fields of study of the girls who were sexually active in high school and the ones who weren't. And at the end of the day, young women who have healthy relationships with the men in their life, a brother, a father, an uncle, you know, a cousin, when there's a healthy relationship with a male, you know, again, there is a relationship, right? And so they're not out looking for that, let's just say from strangers or from people, you know, who are disconnected from their families. And so if you're having a relationship with a male disconnected from your family, especially at young ages, I mean, what else is it?
Right,
What else
right.
is it going to be? They're not trying to be your uncle or your brother or your father, right? So it's just important that everyone pay attention to the young women in your circles.
But you know what's interesting though, when we talk about the needs of the female versus the guy, the teen girl enters this sex thing seeking intimacy, which is a whole nother other story.
Well, let's call intimacy also recognition.
Yes, exactly.
Acknowledgement.
Exactly.
Right.
And the boy enters this sex scene for statue and pleasure.
Yes.
And so therefore,
so imagine, put the two
you got
together.
two different needs there.
Yes.
Two different needs, and they both destroy each other.
Right. And one of our comments said easily manipulated, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes they feel they're making connections. I see that as well, or this male connection thing. We also don't want to understate the importance of young men having healthy relationships with male figures and, of course, female figures.
With their moms.
Research says that, you know, growing up, children, and I know we don't necessarily always like stereotypes because, you know, we know nothing is absolute. But in general, children get their sense of security from the men in their life. It's not, you know, whether or not this is a big strapping guy, it's just that that's what that relationship brings to them. Children get their sense of nurturing and support from the women in their life. And of course, we know that those roles can change. Men can nurture and women can provide security. But if we're just paying close attention to youth behavior, we'll see that when certain people are absent from their lives, there's certain behaviors that can be anticipated.
I want to just read this right here. It says that there was a survey that was done and said that suggests that half of all 15 to 19-year-olds have had oral sex. Now, I want you to hear that now. That over half of all 15 to 19-year-olds have had sex. The percentage rises to 70% by when they turn 19.
7
and
out of 10
equal
people.
numbers of boys and girls participate. So what we have is this steady progression of sexual activity. I want to throw this out, and I share this with parents all the time. You can say to your child, don't have sex, right? But I'm going to tell you, once they start, ain't no stopping.
Right.
Once they started, there is no stopping. So stop fooling yourself and saying, well, I told him he better not ever do it again, and he said he wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Once it starts.
And let's also be honest about the fact that you are not around your children 24 hours a day. I mean, let's face it, school provides more than enough opportunity. And that is where many children are engaging in sexual activities. Bathrooms, classrooms, skipping school, you know, different parts of the campus. It's happening.
They find a place. When they want to, they find a place. So that's why it's important that we equip our children to feel good about themselves. We equip our children.
Go ahead.
We equip our children to understand their bodies, and we equipped our children to understand the consequences, not fear tactics. Not fear tactics. I ain't about, you have sex, guess what? No, all those myths, let's just get rid of those things. Our children are sophisticated, they are smart, and they know when you tell them something that you're lying and or you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right, but hey, let's give them the real facts, Dr. Miles. And this is for our parents because, again, I don't know. I guess if you're not around, medical communities, or if you're not seeing it, you think that it's not happening. But of course, early sex also leads to a lot of other medical problems later in life, especially, in everyone, males and females. But in females, early sex actually increases the chances of cervical cancer. I mean, you know, so cancer of the uterus is more prevalent in women who began sexual relationships early in life. There's also, of course, a higher rate of venereal diseases with early sex. Teens who have comprehensive understanding of the ramifications of sexual activity. And it's important that, as you mentioned, don't tell me that after you know I'm having sex as a way of trying to scare me, because for all intents and purposes, it's a bit late. This is information that we need to be sharing, you know, as our children are growing up. And this needs to be common knowledge for them.
But Jackie, I want you to read the statement again, because I think that is so significant to this entire discussion. It's about that when children have the information, they're less likely.
They really do. Yeah, they make different choices. And that also supports that parents need to know what you say does matter. They even if they don't appear to be listening to you, they are. And so it says, teens who have a comprehensive understanding of the ramifications of sexual activity.
Stop for a second. It's like in church, say, read. Stop for a second.
Right.
I want you to explain that. When you say teens who have a comprehensive, what does that mean?
It means that you didn't just say, don't have sex, you could get a disease. It means that you have explained, first of all, what sex actually is. You know, oral, vaginal, anal, whatever, because that's another part of it. They think they're getting away with something with anal and oral, and that
they really do.
Vaginal, they're okay. So
and they don't call it intercourse.
They do not call it intercourse, exactly, and they think that all these things only come from intercourse.
Right.
So comprehensive understanding means that your child actually understands what a sexual act is. They know what the body parts are, and then of course the ramifications. They understand. Because our research also tells us that 50% of these young people are still not using condoms.
They're not.
Without a comprehensive understanding, do they not understand that sperm is going to travel down that tube and can create a human being, in another child?
Let's talk about this. Now, the reason the children are having anal sex, they're doing that as a birth control prevention. But they don't realize you still can get venereal diseases. You can cause all other kinds of things. So that's why I think parents need to get their head out of the sand.
Absolutely. You have to.
And deal with these issues. Because if you don't deal with it, you're talking about Pookie finishing high school. I'm talking about, let's make sure Pookie is also intelligent about sexuality.
Let's make sure Pookie's alive. Okay.
Exactly.
Make sure that Pookie doesn't have to go through their life with, a sexually transmitted disease for lack of information.
Exactly. Good point.
Okay. And that does happen. This is simply a lack of information. Pookie did not know that seeking of pleasure could leave him or her with something that they would have to deal with for life.
But Jackie, you talked about some physical things, and I'm going to talk about some emotional things. When teens have sex early, folk, it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, shame. It can cause guilt. Go on.
Yep, feelings of shame. Noticing your child as they become a teen becomes inhibited. The inhibitions, and that remorse can lead to a stunted sexual development. So not only are we dealing with this, but now we're talking about a person who is going to be off track for having healthy relationships.
But the other piece is I can't talk to nobody about it because mama ain't gonna understand and daddy ain't much around. So my point is that we have to create healthy environments for our children to have open, honest communications with us without us feeling shy and coy and boy, I ain't talking about no sex with you. Got my face.
Or waiting on them to have a question. That's your job to initiate it. Okay? Because you already know they're growing up. They don't know it, but you should know it. And I want to share this as well. Effects in women. Early initiation of sexual activity and higher numbers of non-marital sex partners are linked in turn to a wide variety of negative life outcomes. Dr. Miles, we often talk about the single parents, not that it's a necessarily bad thing because you can be a single parent for a number of reasons, but we do talk about the socioeconomic impacts. And so Early initiation of sexual activity can lead to increased rates of infection with sexually transmitted diseases. We talked about that. Increased rates of out of wedlock pregnancies and birth. We talked about that. But increased single parenthood, a decrease in marital stability later on. Again, we're talking about life. All because we started sex early. Increased maternal and child poverty. Let's be real. When you have to take care of a child as a child, it interferes with school, college, and everything else.
Dreams.
Increased dreams, increased abortions, medical procedures that could have permanent effects. As you mentioned, increased depression, and of course, a decrease in general happiness, all because they lacked the proper information to avoid using sex to address other issues at an early age.
But you see the part when it talks about also the increase of early death. The
Yes.
increase in early death. We're talking about death due to pregnancies, where the girl's body is not mature enough.
Couldn't handle it.
And one of the documents said that that when a teen is pregnant, it's a conflict with the baby and the mother, because her body has not developed and she's still needing all the iron that she can get,
right?
And she has now given it to the baby, causes anemia and all kinds of malfunctions. So
it's very common factors, right?
It's not just teen pregnancy; it's real.
It's a life of complications. It could lead to a life of complications, because we're talking about, are you talking to your teen ahead of time? Let's face it, there are people who have engaged in sex at an early age and no one is yet to talk to them. They're in their 30s, which is why they then become parents who don't talk about sex. We've really got to take the cover off sex in this country. There's research that says in other countries, it's a very normal conversation, and their teen pregnancy rates are much lower than they are in the United States. So it's kind of a hypocritical position that we take.
It's kind of interesting that we're talking about youngsters who willingly have sex. We have not even discussed the incest, the rape, and how that affects them. Are you with me? And so we're talking about,
right,
when they both agree to have sex. But what happens when incest occurs? What happens when a rape occurs? And so the data we're giving triples. It triples the increase in anxiety,
yes,
the increase in depression, and so
we're dealing with trauma. Right. So, Dr. Miles, let's talk about some of the upsides. Let's talk about what some parents can do and what the numbers say about what happens when you start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing parents can do for toddlers and preschool children is to begin referring to body parts by their names. A penis is no different than a nostril. I love that. It's only funny because we make it so. Get over it. All right. When the question arises about where babies come from, most kids do well with the dad's sperm fertilizes the mom's egg scenario, and that leads to a fertilized egg that grows and develops into a baby within the uterus. And please don't say stomach. We mentioned this earlier. The stomach is full of hydraulic acid, and so no baby could ever exist there. Okay. Other important facts. The importance of full discussion on puberty, the release of special hormones, and all of the body parts, body changes that come as a result cannot be understated.
Well, one thing I want to do, Jackie, with us and the male talk meetings is coming Saturday. It won't happen this Saturday. We'll move into it. But I'm talking about, that's why I warn the parents that these sessions are unfiltered.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about what happens when your body goes through puberty.
Right.
What happens when your body goes through puberty? We're talking about our males and our females. For those who just signed on, we're having an awesome meetings this coming Saturday. We're looking for y'all to be involved with it. We're looking for volunteers dealing with males and females. The female session starts at 1 o'clock. Am I right? At 1 o'clock? No, it starts at
2:30.
Nope.
No, 1:30. 1:30 for the girls.
No, okay. Check your flyers. I know it's at 12 and 1, but I think the girls, 1 and 2, the girls go first, and then we have a session for boys. But it's on Zoom. For those of you who are on Instagram, check your Instagram. We've already sent it out, and so you should get the exact dates on that, the exact times.
Right.
Right?
Okay. So, did you want me to continue?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. So, not knowing, it says that talking about puberty cannot be understated. The research finds that girls know about having a menstrual period, but they have no clue as to why they're having a menstrual period, meaning they don't know that the body has produced an egg and that when the egg is not fertilized, it becomes a menstrual flow. They're not aware of that. They know nothing to very little about their anatomy or their body parts. Mm-hmm. Like, do they know they have fallopian tubes? Or do they have any idea what's going on there? Boys tend to be equally ignorant about their internal anatomy. Mm-hmm. And it says this information should be discussed around 9 or 10 when the body changes start to occur. I like to see the research on how many parents have had conversations about sex before 9 or 10 years of age.
Ain't no research, none of them. Well,
I'd like any parents on the line with us now to just put in chat if they've started conversations before 9 or 10 years old, because you're saying that they think they're babies when they're 14 and 15. What do you think they are at 9 and 10?
I'm telling you. And it also they have to become aware of the changes that occurs in our young people's bodies. When I say changes, I'm talking about things ain't like they used to be.
Right.
You ain't talking about children getting to puberty at age 12. We're talking about now 7, 8, 9.
Due in large part to the fact that they have computers in their hands that they walk around with all day.
Check, I have a 6-year-old, got a mustache already. No, I'm very serious. And I'm saying we need to watch this.
Yeah. Right. School-age children, 10 to 12, want an explanation of intercourse. They want to know what intercourse is. How does the sperm get to the egg? I have found that the simplest, most straightforward approach, and this is from an author, is best. They want to know, but they need to know more than they're ready for. Okay? Or they don't need to know more than they're ready for. And another approach is that when you remove the person from the body parts, it can also be an easier conversation because we all have those body parts.
But Jackie, when you think that the information you're giving is just so important and is such great information, but it seems like parents don't have a comfort level of talking about it, a comfort level, because everybody still sees it as something that's mysterious and that you do it, just don't say nothing.
Dr. Miles, does that mean that parents aren't comfortable with their own sexual
The answer is yes.
Activity?
The answer is yes.
So we're here as adults thinking that sex is a bad thing. I mean, I'm trying to just understand why.
Jackie, the answer is yes, and religion has something to do with it.
Okay, well, I think you just hit the Holy Grail on that. Yeah, all of the stories that come out about when you should and when you should not. Well, unfortunately, our children don't really care about that.
Can I just talk about this for?
They're going to engage regardless.
Can I talk about this for a second? And I'm not going to get too deep into this right here, but because when I talk about religion and people who are highly religious, they then say what they believe Bible is saying and says that you only have sex. The only reason you're supposed to have sex is to procreate.
Okay.
The only reason you have sex is to procreate. Well, that may be the intent, but while they're procreating, it feels good. So people are going to want to keep feeling good without procreating.
Well, you know something, Dr. Miles, again, you were dealing with a lot of hypocrisy because I know that children know that their parents are, sexually engaging and they're not procreating.
Of course.
They know that they are seeking pleasure. Children learn from the adults around them. And so, again, the hypocrisy, the double standard is what's costing our children their health, their livelihood, because it's ignorance
and their life
around what we know is not true. And just like they said, separate the body part from the person. Let's separate the act from religion and the reasons, right? Let's be straight about what sex is, okay? Then we can talk about when to engage, when not to engage, and people can make better decisions. Even children can make better decisions, but they don't even know what it is. Again, They don't know that they're having sex when they're doing anal. They don't know they're having sex when they're doing oral. They think they're avoiding something.
Well, it's kind of interesting that when you start talking about teens having sex, and we said it's across all racial lines and it's across all economic lines, but the data is very clear. Data is very clear that children from low-income areas are more likely to engage in sexual activity at a much earlier age than those who are privileged. Now, that's according to what data says. Part two to that is that children who are orphaned in foster care are also more apt to engage in it. Now, if we look at...
But Dr. Miles, you know what those factors are?
Yes.
The absence of more parental supervision.
It's the absence of it, and the absence of emotional and emotional support. And that's what you're saying when the parent
ages.
Yes, exactly. So parents, you all play a very important role in all parts of your children's life. I would say place as much emphasis on sex as you place on graduation.
Yes, that's a very good point. And they need to remember in this instance, knowledge is powerful. It's powerful for self-esteem. A lot of times children lean on other children for information. But if I know, right, my self-esteem is higher, I can tell other people. I know that when I'm hearing something, it's just not right because I heard from someone that I trusted who trusts me enough to be open and honest with me. So
you know what's interesting?
Is powerful, parents.
You know what's interesting to me, Jackie? It's like, how is it that a parent does not feel comfortable talking to someone they brought into this world
about how they brought them into the
I
world?
just don't get it. I just don't get what all this hype is about and this secrecy is about, and making life mysterious for our children. Mysterious
and confusing.
Yes.
And that's another word that I really want parents to focus on. You're confusing your child, right? You may be saying one thing, doing another. Trust me, they know you better than you know you.
Of course.
But when you don't talk about something, don't think that you're like avoiding it. You're automatically saying this is a bad thing. Why, as a parent, if it was a good thing, wouldn't you be talking about it?
Right.
You know, they make those kind of connections. Well, it must be bad. I mean, my parent knows I'm 15. I know they know about the world because they have me, but they haven't said anything to me.
Well, the kid ain't stupid either. It can't be that bad because y'all doing it, so I'm gonna see what this bad stuff is about.
And they go seeking answers.
And
so if nothing else, I mean, honestly, like you said, if I had to pick one thing that was more important than anything, by all means, talk to your children early on. You know, we're not saying to tell a 3-year-old about intercourse, but we are saying that a 3-year-old should know what a penis is, so that when they're older and you start talking about, what that penis might do and can do and how it helps to create children and other things, the word penis is not new.
You know, it's kind of amazing. And this just popped up in my mind. It's kind of interesting. It's that we have to start seeing the penis and vagina as life-giving. It can be life-giving or life-taking away.
Exactly.
So you can avoid it all you want to. And the issue is that guess what? It is life-giving or it can be life-taking away. And the parents help the children to form this image and this perception of what this thing is. So it's not just this mysterious thing, oh, I need the screw. It is, wait a minute, I can give life with this, or I can give death. And that's what this is all about.
Right. And I want to go ahead and add in, what some of the statistics say about sexually transmitted diseases and the numbers increasing, especially in children of color and African American youth. The new cases of HIV in African American youth, the numbers are highest in youth. I think it's between the ages of 15 and 19 or 15 and 21. That's just ignorance. That's just not knowing better. So to your point, Dr. Miles, what you don't tell your child can be deadly, and can set them up. Imagine a 12-year-old basically, having a life sentence of dealing with, a sexually transmitted disease that they will have to, be dealing with for the next 80 years. When
Right.
all it took was a parent to say, here's the real information that you need to know. So if you love your children, right, you protect them, you buy them clothing, you do other things to protect them. Let your mouth protect them. Have a conversation. Well, get the information yourself. Parents do need to educate themselves, but then you need to share the information with your child.
Knowledge is power. We can't say that any stronger, any stronger. I am just really hoping, Jackie, that this information we're sharing with parents, that they get it, that they watch these live streams, they go to our website and take a look at what we're talking about, because really we're helping them help their children. We are helping them help their children. And if they don't want to help them, why would anyone else? But they need you. When you decided to have that child, you had a responsibility. Responsibility wasn't just to have them, but it was generational. It's generational.
Right.
To have
And Dr. Miles,
yes,
this is sad because I realized my numbers were too high. The report says that African American ages 13 to 24 account for 56%. African American youth, 13
years of age,
for 56% of new HIV cases.
Well, now that's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yep. And it says nearly half of all African American girls between 14 and 19 are infected. Half. Okay.
Wow.
That's 1 out of 2 are infected with a sexually transmitted infections like chlamydia, herpes, or HPV. 14 to 19 for lack of information.
That's just amazing.
So it is sad.
We could almost do a part 2 on this, but again, we want to get this information out and have parents at least understand that they should have a comfort level in having a discussion. And as we said often, Jackie, that this is more than the talk.
Yeah, much more than the talk. This is about lifestyle. This is
more than the stork and the birds and the bees. Because the birds and the bees, well, first of all, where all these animals come from?
I was going to say, our research, Dr. Miles, said that when they do that, children usually walk away confused. Okay. So
where does stork came from? And the birds and the bees. Okay. Well, I'm not going to get into that. But I do want to say that our goal was to inform our community and to inform our followers. And we're going to ask our followers, don't come on here every week and getting all this great information. Invite someone else. Invite someone else. Jackie, I do want to say that we are running out of time as usual, and it's just getting started. But I do want to make sure, Jackie, that we have the right time, and those who are following us have already received this on this coming Saturday. Wait a minute, is this Saturday the 30th or the 29th?
It should be the 30th. The 29th, I believe, is Friday.
Okay, I have the wrong date then. It is the 30th. At 2 o'clock, we'll be having the session for the males. It's called Male Talk. And we're telling your parents, if you don't want your children to hear the real truth, don't have them come on the Zoom. The Zoom ID is there.
Can I reverse that? If you don't want your children to hear the truth, you really need to send them to the Zoom, because you're keeping them from the truth that they need.
Good point.
So if you're worried about them hearing the truth, send them to us, please.
Good point. And the girls will meet at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
The girls will meet from 1. It's called Girlfriends, from 1 to 2. And the males will start meeting at 2 o'clock, and it's called Male Talk. Jackie, we only have 100 slots. That's all we have. Now, if we fill that up, that'll be great. But I have a suspicion people are going to be trying to get in there, because I'm telling you, I'm looking for Savannah to help us out. And folk, if you have any church groups of youth, any youth groups across the country, send the flyer to them so they can come on in Zoom and hear what we're talking about. Now, parents, we don't want y'all trying to sneak in now. All right? You'll have an opportunity later on. Jackie, it's always, you're part of this now. It's just great always being with you every week, talking about community issues. Can I
issue a challenge to our parents?
Sure. Yeah, most certainly.
Parents, I want to issue a challenge to you. Sit in front of a mirror. Imagine what your conversation would look like. Be honest with yourselves. about whether or not you have informed your children properly. And of course, it doesn't matter where you are, where they are. It's always a good time to start. So my challenge is that those who are on with us tonight will evaluate, get in front of a mirror, practice, do some research, look up the terminology, have a conversation before next Tuesday, and then come back and share that with us.
Well,
Let
Jackie,
us know what that was like.
I want to have a little fun now, but before I do that, we have 2 more minutes. The male talk and the girlfriends, there gonna be music before we get started. So they can get their little energy out. We have guest speakers coming on. The youngsters will interact with us, and we will give away prizes. So I do want to say, if there are people who are listening tonight who really want to volunteer with us in either the girlfriends conversations or the male talk, please inbox us, and we'll make sure we'll get back with you. But I also want to say that I'm just really honored that the community has received us well, and I want to say to all of you all, please share our information. Jackie, I want to say, somebody says an age-appropriate conversation. That's the wrong meeting. We have the ages from 12 to 16. We're not dealing with any censorship. It is very in their face. So,
right, age appropriate starts at 3. I mean, it's age appropriate.
I'm just going to say to you now, if parents are having issues with the content, don't send your children. And we have a disclaimer. It says it's unfiltered because we're giving the kids the truth.
And I'm telling you that if you're not giving your kids the truth, then you need to send them to us so we can, because you're harming your children. And of course, I'm being a bit facetious, Dr. Miles. I understand what you're saying. We don't want parents to be shocked. We're being very honest about our conversations. But if you're concerned about that, especially with the teenagers that we're dealing with, we need to have some conversations. Maybe you need to send them so we can do it. We can share that information.
She said the conversation that you have asked us to have before next week, is it age appropriate? It's really up to you. Yeah.
Yes. By all means, based on the age of your child, where should you start? Do a little research and get started. I got 1 minute.
We got to do some shout outs. Jackie, and help me do this right here. I want to make sure 5 and 6 to get started then. But listen, we want the AKAs to send youth groups. Who else do you want to send?
We want all of them. We have Kappa League for Kappa Alpha Psi. Phi Beta Sigma has a youth group they work with. So does Omega Psi Phi. Delta Sigma Theta has Delteens. I mean, the groups are out there.
We're not competing, are we? We're just trying to help their youth.
Listen, it's a 1-hour conversation with them, and we know that you meet with them more often. So no, it's not a competition. There is no fee to join us. There's no, we just want to make sure that these conversations begin. And then we send them back to you and these organizations so you can continue it.
Guess what? We gotta go.
Those topics.
We gotta go. We have to go. Hey, listen, it's been wonderful. Jackie, you've been wonderful. Thank you all for following us. We'll see you on next week on the same forum. This weekend, send your children to us and we'll help you out. Take care.
Goodbye.